what I was playing, eh?
I did not think it polite to listen, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry for that. For your sake. I don't play accurately. Anybody can play accurately. But I play with wonderful expression. As far as the piano is concerned, sentiment is my forte. I keep science for life.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of science for life, have you got the cucumber sandwiches for the
Yes, sir.
Oh, I see from your book that on Thursday night when I was dining with Mr. Worthing and Lord Shorman, 8 bottles of champagne are entered as having been consumed.
Yes, sir. 8 bottles and a pint.
Why is it that at a bachelor's establishment the servants invariably drink the champagne?
I attribute it to the quality of the wine, sir. I have often observed that in a married household, the champagne is rarely of a first-rate brand.
Good heavens! Is marriage so demoralizing as that?
I believe it is a very pleasant state. I have very little of experience of it myself up to the present. I have only been married once, and that was in consequence of a misunderstanding between myself and a young person.
I don't think I am much interested in your family life, eh?
No, sir, it is not a very interesting subject. I tend not to think of it myself.
Very natural, I'm sure. That will do, Lane, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lane's views on marriage seem somewhat lax. Really, if the lower orders don't set us a good example, what on earth is the use of them?
Mr. Ernest Worthing.
My dear Ernest, what brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring one anywhere? Eating again, I see, Archie.
I believe it is customary in good society to have some slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since last Thursday?
Oh, in the country.
What on earth do you do there?
Well, when one is in town, one entertains oneself. When one is in the country, one entertains other people. It's excessively boring.
Well, what do these people you amuse?
Neighbors, neighbors.
Got nice neighbors in your part of Shropshire.
Oh, no, perfectly horrid. Never speak to one of them.
How immensely you must amuse them. Your place is in Shropshire, is it not?
Shropshire? Yes. Hello. Why all these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who's coming to tea?
Oh, mere Aunt Augusta and Gwendolen.
How perfectly delightful!
Yes, that is all very well, but I don't think Aunt Augusta will quite approve of your being here.
May I ask why?
My dear fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolen is perfectly disgraceful. It is almost as bad as the way Gwendolen flirts with you.
I am in love with Gwendolen. Well, I've come up to town expressly to propose to her.
I thought you'd come up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic you are.
I really don't see anything romantic in proposing. It is very romantic to be in love, but there is nothing romantic about a definite proposal. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If ever I get married, I'll certainly try to forget that fact.
Oh yes, I've no doubt about that, dear Algy. The divorce court was specially invented for people whose memories are so curiously constituted.
There is no use speculating on that subject. Divorces are made in heaven. Oh, please don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. They're ordered especially for Aunt Augusta.
But you've been eating them the whole time.
That is quite a different matter. She is my aunt. Have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for when Gwendolen is devoted to bread and butter.
And very good bread and butter it is, too.
Dear fellow, you need not eat it as if you're going to eat it all. Act as if you are married to her already. You are not married to her already, and I don't think you ever will be.
May I ask why not?
Well, in the first place, girls never marry the men they flirt with. Girls don't think it's right.
That is nonsense.
It isn't. It accounts for the extraordinary number of bachelors one sees all over the place. In the second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
My dear fellow, Gwendolen is my first cousin, and before I allow you the chance of marrying her, you'll have to clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? What do you mean, Algy, by, Cecily? Well, I don't know anyone by the name of Cecily.
Bring me the cigarette case Mr. Worthing left in the smoking room last time he dined here.
Yes, sir.
Do you mean to say you've had my cigarette case this whole time? I wish to goodness you'd let me know. I was very nearly offering a large reward.
I wish you would offer one. I've been more than usually hard up.
Oh, there's no point in offering a large reward now that the thing is found.
I find that is rather mean of you, Earnest. Although, looking at the inscription inside, it makes no matter, for I find the thing isn't yours after all.
Well, of course it's mine. You've seen me with it 100 times. And you've no right whatsoever to read what's written inside. Algy, it is a very ungentlemanly thing to read what is written in one's private cigarette case.
Oh, it is absurd to have a hard and fast rule about what one should read and what one shouldn't. More than half of modern culture is based on what one shouldn't read.
Yes, I'm quite aware of the fact, and I don't propose to discuss modern culture with you. Just give it back to me, Algy.
Yes, but it is in your cigarette case. This cigarette case is a present from someone by the name of Cecily. You said you didn't know anyone of that name.
Well, if you must know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, charming lady, lives at Tunbridge Wells. Just come back to me, Algy!
Yes, but why does she call herself Little Cecily? If she is your aunt and lives at Tunbridge Wells. From Little Cecily, with her fondest love.
My dear fellow, what on earth is there to that? Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. Surely that is a matter that an aunt may be allowed to decide for herself. You seem to think that every aunt should be exactly like your aunt. That is absurd. Give it back to me!
Yes, but why does your aunt call you her uncle? From Little Cecily, with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. There is no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt, but why an aunt, no matter what her size may be, call her own nephew her uncle, I can't quite make out. Besides, your name isn't Jack at all, it's Ernest.
It isn't Ernest, it's Jack.
But you've always told me it was Ernest. You answer to the name of Ernest. You look as if your name is Ernest. You are the most earnest-looking person I've ever seen in my life. It is perfectly absurd to say your name isn't Ernest. It's on your cards. Mr. Earnest Worthing. B. Foley, Albany. I'll keep this as proof your name is Ernest if ever you attempt to deny to me, or to Gwendolyn, or to anybody else.
Well, it is Ernest in town and Jack in the country. And the cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that does not account for the fact that your small Aunt Cecily, who lives at Tunbridge Wells, calls you her dear uncle. Come on, boy, you had much better have the thing out at once. I may say that I have suspected you of being a confirmed and secret Bunburyist, and I am quite sure of it now.
Bunburyist? What on earth is a Bunburyist?
I'll reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you tell me why you were Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, produce my cigarette case first.
Here it is. Now produce your explanation, and pray, make it improbable.
Oh, my dear fellow, there's nothing improbable at all. The late Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was very young, made me in his will guardian to his granddaughter, Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who addresses me as her uncle out of a means of respect that you could not possibly hope to understand, lives at my place in the country under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism.
Where is that place in the country, by the way?
Oh, that's nothing to you, old boy. You are not going to be invited. I may tell you candidly, it is not in Shropshire.
I had suspected that, my dear boy, for I've been buried all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now, go on. Why are you Earnest in town, Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, I don't think you'll be able to understand my real reasons. You're hardly serious enough. But when one is appointed guardian, one must adopt a very high moral tone on all subjects. And since a very high moral tone cannot be said to conduce much to one's health or one's happiness, in order to come up to town, I have always pretended to have a younger brother by the name of Earnest, who lives at the Albany and gets into the most dreadful scrapes. That is the whole truth, pure and simple.
The truth is rarely pure, and never simple. Modern life would be very tedious for either, and modern literature a complete impossibility.
That wouldn't at all be a bad thing.
Literary criticism is not your forte, my dear fellow.
What you really are is a bunburyist. I may say that you are one of the most advanced bunburyist I know. Algy, what on earth is a bunburyist? You have invented a very useful younger brother called Earnest, in order that you may be able to come up to town as often as you like. I have created an invaluable, permanent invalid called Bunbury, in order that I may be able to go down to the country as often as I choose. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. If it weren't for Bunbury's dreadfully bad health, for instance, I wouldn't be able to dine with you tonight at Lewis's. Well, I've been really engaged to Aunt Augusta for more than a week. I haven't asked with you to dine with me anyway tonight. Yes, I know. You're absurdly careless about sending out invitations. That is very unkind of you. Nobody likes it. Nobody hates it more than not receiving an invitation. Yes, well, you'd very much better dine with your Aunt Augusta. I have no intention of doing anything of the kind. She will place me next to Mary Faulkner, who always flirts with her own husband from across the dinner table. That is not very pleasant. The amount of women in London who flirt with their own husbands is perfectly scandalous. It looks so bad. Besides, now that you know you to be confirmed in secret bunburyist, I naturally want to talk to you about it. I want to tell you the rules. I'm not a bunburyist at all, Algy. In fact, if Gwendolyn accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother. I think I'll kill him anyway. Cecily's a little too much interested in him. So, I'm going to be getting rid of Earnest, and I suggest you do the same with Mr. Oh, with your invalid friend was the absurd name. Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury. And if ever you get married, you'll be very glad to know Bunbury. A man who marries without knowing Bunbury has a very tedious time of it. Oh, that is nonsense. If I were to marry a charming girl like Gwendolyn, I certainly wouldn't want to know Bunbury. Then your wife will. For heaven's sake, Algy, don't try to be cynical. It's perfectly easy to be cynical. My dear fellow, it is not easy to be anything nowadays. Oh, that must be Aunt Augusta. Now, if I can get her out of the way for 10 minutes, in order that you may have an opportunity of proposing to Gwendolyn. May I dine with you tonight at Ulysses? Oh, I suppose so. If you want to. Yes, but you must be serious about it. I hate people who are not serious about their views. It's so shallow.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you've been behaving very well.
I'm feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
Those are not quite the same thing. In fact, they rarely go together.
Dear me, you are smart.
I'm always smart. Am I not, Mr. Worthing?
You're quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I'm not that. It would leave no room for developments, and I intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry if we were late, Algernon, but I was obliged to go see poor Lady Harbury. I've not been over there since her poor husband died. I've never seen a woman quite so altered. She looked quite 20 years younger. So, I will now take my cup of tea and one of those cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Of course, Aunt Augusta.
Gwendolyn, you want to sit over here?
Thanks, Mamma. Quite comfortable where I am.
Good heavens! Elaine! Why are there no cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specially.
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning. I went down twice.
No cucumbers?
Oh, sir, not even for ready money.
That will do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I am greatly distressed, Aunt Augusta, about there being no cucumbers.
Oh,
Not even for ready money.
That's really no matter, Algernon. I had some crumpets with Lady Harbury, who, in my opinion, is living life purely for pleasure now.
My hair has turned quite gold from grief.
Oh, it has quite changed its color, the cause of which I have no idea. I have a treat for you tonight, Algernon. I'm going to stand you down next to Mary Farquhar.
afraid, Aunt Augusta, I won't have the enormous pleasure of dining with you this evening after all.
Oh, don't say that, Algie. It will set my table completely out. And then your uncle will have to dine upstairs, and unfortunately he's used to that.
It is a great bore, and I need hardly say a terrible disappointment to me, but I just received a telegram that my poor friend Bunbury is dreadfully ill again. They seem to say I should meet with him.
It is very strange. This Mr. Bunbury has got curiously bad health.
Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, I must say to you, Algie, that it is high time that Mr. Bunbury make up his mind whether he wants to live or to die. This shilly-shallying between the question is absurd. I would appreciate if you would tell him from me to kindly not have a relapse on Saturday, for I need you to arrange my music for me.
I will speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he is still conscious. But I believe he'll be all right by Saturday. I will go over the program I've drawn out, if you will kindly accompany me into the next room for a moment.
Thank you, Algernon. It is very thoughtful of you. And I'm sure the program is going to be very entertaining, with a few explanations. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me?
Yes, Mama.
Charming weather we're having, Miss Fairfax.
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always get quite certain that they mean something else. And that makes me so nervous.
Well, I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I'm never wrong.
And I would like to be allowed to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so. One has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I've often had to speak to her about.
Gwendolyn, ever since I've met you, I've liked you more than any girl I have ever met since I met you.
Yes, I'm quite well aware of the fact. And I do wish that, in public at any rate, you'd been more demonstrative. For me, you always held an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. And my ideal has always been to love someone of the name Earnest. There is something in that name which inspires absolute confidence. The moment Algernon told me he had a friend called Earnest, I knew I was destined to love you.
You really love me, Gwendolyn.
Passionately.
Darling, oh, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Earnest.
But you don't mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest.
But your name is Earnest.
Well, yes, I know, but assuming it was something else.
Ah, that is clearly a metaphysical speculation, and like most metaphysical speculations, has very little reference at all to the actual facts of life as we know them.
Really, Gwendolyn, to be quite candid, I don't much care for the name of Ernest. I don't think it suits me at all.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces vibrations.
Really, Gwendolyn, I must say, there are many much nicer names. Well, I think Jack, for instance, a charming name.
Jack? Oh, no. There is very little music in the name. It is notorious domesticity for John. And I pity any woman who finds herself married to a man called John. Never get to experience the entrancing pleasure of a single moment's solitude. No. The
Gwendolyn, I must get christened I mean, we must get married at once. There's no time to be lost.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Well, indeed. You know I love you, and you made me believe, Miss Fairfax, you are not entirely indifferent to me.
I adore you. But you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing at all has been said about marriage. The subject has not even been touched on.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity. And to spare you any possible doubt upon the subject, I think it's only fair to tell you quite frankly beforehand that I am fully determined to accept you.
Gwendolyn!
Yes, Mr. Worthing? What have you got to say to me?
You know what I've got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Oh, yes. Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Of course, darling. How long you've been about it. I'm afraid you've had very little experience in how to propose.
My own one, I've never loved anyone in the world but you.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. Oh, what wonderful blue eyes you have, Ernest. They are quite blue. I hope you will always look at me just like that, especially when there are other people around.
Mr. Worthing! Rise, sir, from this semi-recumbent position. Decorous.
Mamma, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing is not quite finished yet.
Finished with what, may I ask?
Mr. Worthing and I are engaged, Mamma.
Pardon me, but you are not engaged to anyone. And when you become engaged to someone, I or your father, should his health allow, will tell you of the fact of such. And now, Mr. Worthing, I have a few questions to ask of you. And while I'm doing my inquiry, Gwendolyn, you will wait below for me in the carriage.
Mamma.
In the carriage, Gwendolyn.
Yes, Mamma.
The carriage!
Yes, Mamma.
You may be seated, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
Mr. Worthing, I'm bound to tell you that you do not show up on my list of eligible young men. However, I'm ready to add your name should you answer questions of a very affectionate mother that she requires. Do you smoke?
Why, yes, Lady Bracknell, I must admit that I do smoke.
I'm glad to hear that. I believe every man should have an occupation of some kind. And there are far too many idle men in London as it is. What is your age?
29.
A very good age at which to be married at. I am of the opinion that if a man wishes to marry, he should either know everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell?
I am pleased to hear that. I am of the opinion that I don't like to see natural intelligence tampered. Natural ignorance is like a rare, exotic fruit. You touch it, and the bloom is gone. Do you have an income?
Yes, between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
Land or investments?
Well, in investments, chiefly.
That is satisfactory.
I do have a country house with some land attached to it, of course. Oh, about 1,500 acres. I don't depend upon that for my real income, though. No. Oh, as far as I can make out, the poachers are the only ones who make anything out of it.
A country house. Well, I hope you have a townhouse. A girl with a simple and unspoiled character like my Gwendolyn can hardly be expected to live in the country.
I do own a townhouse, of course, in Belgrave Square. But it is let by the year to Lady Bloxham, though I could get it back any time I like at 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham, I don't believe I know her.
Oh, she is a woman considerably advanced in years. She goes about very little.
Nowadays, there is no guarantee of respectability of character. What is the number of Belgrave Square?
149.
No. Fashionable side. I knew there'd be something. However, that can easily be altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both. If necessary, I presume. Are your parents living?
Well, I am afraid, Lady Bracknell, I have lost both my parents.
Mr. Worthing, to have lost one parent may be regarded as a very sad event, but to lose both looks like carelessness. What was your father's name?
Well, I'm afraid, Lady Bracknell, I really don't know. You see, I said that I had lost my parents, but it would be nearer the truth to say my parents had lost me. I was found. Yes, Lady Bracknell. A very charitable gentleman by the name of Mr. Thomas Cardew found me. He gave me a name of Worthing, because he had a ticket to Worthing in his coat pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort.
Where did this charitable gentleman with a first-class ticket to a seaside resort find you?
In a handbag. Yes, Lady Bracknell. I was in a handbag. A black leather handbag. An ordinary handbag, in fact, with handles to it.
In what locality did this Mr. Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag?
The cloakroom at Victoria Station.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station!
It was the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial. Mr. Worthing, I must confess, I'm totally bewildered by what you just said to me. To be born, or at any rate, bred, in a handbag, with or without handles, seems to me to be a display of just disregard of the ordinary family manners.
Lady Bracknell, what then would you advise me to do? I need hardly say I would do anything to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
Mr. Worthing, I strongly advise you to make a definite effort to produce at least one parent of either sex before the end of the season is quite over.
I really don't know how I could possibly do that, Lady Bracknell. I could produce the handbag for you, though. It's in my dressing room at home. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Satisfy me, sir. Why, it has nothing to do with me. You can hardly imagine that Lord Bracknell and I would allow our only daughter, raised with the utmost of care, to be married into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parson? Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Morning. Quit playing that ghastly tune, Algy. How idiotic you are.
Did it go off all right, little boy? Oh, you don't mean to say Gwendolyn refused you? I know it is a way she has. She is always refusing people. I think it is rather ill-natured of her.
As far as Gwendolyn is concerned, we are engaged already.
Ah!
Her mother, on the other hand, is perfectly unbearable. I never met such a gorgon. I don't really know what a gorgon is, but I'm sure Lady Bracknell is one. I'm sorry, Algy. I suppose I shouldn't talk about your aunt in front of you in this way.
My dear fellow, I love hearing my relations abused. It is the only reason I put up with them at all.
That is nonsense, Algy.
It isn't.
Well, I'm not going to argue it. You always want to argue things.
That is originally what all things were made for.
Algy, you don't think there's any chance of Gwendolyn becoming like her mother in 150 years or so?
My dear fellow, all women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. No man does. That's his.
Was that clever?
It's perfectly fresh.
But I'm sick to death of cleverness. I wish to goodness we had a few fools left.
We have.
Oh, we do. Well, I would extraordinarily like to meet them. What do they talk about?
Oh! The fools? About the clever people, of course.
What fools?
Oh. Did you get to telling Gwendolyn about your being Earnest in town and Jack in the country?
Oh, Algy. A truth like that is not what one shares with a sweet, simple, innocent girl like Gwendolyn. What wild ways you have in behaving towards a woman.
The only way to behave towards a woman is to make love to her if she's pretty, and to someone else if she's plain.
Algy, that is nonsense.
What about your brother? What about the profligate Earnest?
Yes. By week's end, I think I'll have got rid of Earnest. I'll say he died in Paris of apoplexy. What? Many people die quite suddenly of apoplexy, don't they?
Yes, but it is hereditary. It's the kind of thing that runs in families. You would much better say a severe chill.
A severe chill isn't hereditary or anything like that.
Of course it is.
Oh, good. My poor brother Ernest, carried off in Paris by a severe chill. That gets rid of...
But I thought you had said that Cecily, Miss Carter, was a little too much interested in your brother Ernest.
Oh, I'm pleased to say that Cecily is not a silly romantic girl. No, she goes on long walks, has a capital appetite, and pays absolutely no attention at all to her lessons.
I'd very much like to see Cecily.
Oh, I'll make very certain you never do. She is excessively pretty, and only just 18.
Have you told Gwendolyn that you have an excessively pretty ward who's only just 18?
Oh, Algy, one doesn't just blurt these things out. Gwendolyn and Cecily are perfectly certain to be the best of friends. I'll bet you anything you like. A half hour after they've met, they will be calling each other sister.
Women only do that when they've called each other a lot of other things first.
That is nonsense.
Oh, my dear fellow, we really must be go up and get changed if we're going to get a good table at Willis's tonight. Do you know it is nearly 7?
Algy, it is always nearly 7.
Well, I'm hungry.
Well, I never knew you when you weren't.
Miss Fairfax.
Gwendolyn, upon my word.
Algy, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Gwendolyn, I really don't think I can allow this at all.
Algy, you always adopt a strictly immoral attitude towards life. You're not quite old enough to do that yet. Ernest, we may never be married. Few parents nowadays pay any attention to what their children say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. The present influence I had over Mamma, I lost at the age of 3. But those she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else and marry often, but nothing she can ever do will alter my eternal devotion to you.
Gwendolyn.
The story of your romantic origin, as related to me by Mamma with unpleasing comments, has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name, it makes you exquisitely incomprehensible, with an irresistible fascination to me. Your town address at the Albany I have. What is your address in the country?
The Manor House, Walton, Hertfordshire.
How long will you remain in town?
Until Monday.
Good. Algy, you may turn round now.
Thanks. I've turned round already.
You may also ring the bell.
You allow me to see you to your carriage, Miss Fairfax?
Certainly.
I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir.
Glass of sherry, Lane.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, Lane, I will be going bunburying.
Yes, sir.
I shall probably not be back until Monday. I'll need you to put up my dress clothes, my smoking jacket, and all Bunbury suits.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow will be a fine day, Lane.
It never is, sir.
Lane, you are a perfect pessimist.
I do my best to give satisfaction, sir.
What on earth are you so amused at?
Oh, nothing. I'm merely anxious about my poor friend Bunbury. That is all.
If you're not careful, your poor friend Bunbury will get you into a very serious scrape someday.
Oh, I love scrapes. They're the only things that are never serious.
Algy, you only ever speak nonsense. It's all you ever do.
Nobody ever does speak not nonsense.
Cecily, surely such a utilitarian occupation as the watering of flowers is rather Merriman's duty than yours, especially at a time when intellectual pleasures await you. Your German grammar is here on the table. We'll repeat yesterday's lesson.
But I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language. In fact, I know that I was quite plain once I'm done with my German lesson.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way.
Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes I wonder if he cannot be quite well.
Your guardian enjoys the best of health, and his gravity of demeanor is especially to be commended in one so comparatively young as he is.
I suppose that's why he often looks so bored when the three of us are together.
Cecily, I am surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. You must remember his constant anxiety over that unfortunate young man, his brother.
I do wish Uncle Jack would allow his unfortunate young brother to come and see us sometime. We may have good influence over him, Miss Prism.
I do not think that even I could produce any effect on a character who, by his own brother's admission, is irretrievably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I do not think I would wish to reclaim him. I am not in favor of this modern mania for turning bad people to good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so let him reap. Diary, Cecily, you must put your diary away. I really don't see why you should keep one at all.
I keep one in order to write down the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't, I may as well forget them all.
Memory, Cecily, is the diary which we all carry about with us.
Yes, but memory often chronicles things that never happened and couldn't possibly have happened. In fact, I believe that memory is responsible for nearly all of the 3-volume novels Moody sends us.
Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in earlier days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever. Did it end happily? I hope it did not. Books that do depress me so.
The good ended happily and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose. And was it ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript was unfortunately abandoned. Oh, I use the word in the sense of lost or mislaid. Oh, but to your work, Cecily, these speculations are profitless.
Oh, but I see dear Dr. Chasuble coming up through the garden.
Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
And how are we this morning? Miss Prism, you are, I trust, well.
Oh no, Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache. In fact, I believe that a brisk stroll around the garden with you would do her much good.
Cecily, I have not mentioned anything of a headache.
Yes, I know that, Miss Prism. I just felt instinctively that you had. In fact, that is what I was thinking about, and not my German lesson with the rest of you then.
Well, I hope, Cecily, you are not inattentive.
I'm afraid I am.
That is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. Well, I spoke metaphorically, of course. My metaphor was drawn from bees. With Mr. Worthing be coming home from town today.
We do not look for him until Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes. He usually likes to spend his Sunday in London. He is not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment as, by all accounts, that unfortunate young man his brother seems to be. But I will not leave Egeria and her pupil to her studies.
Egeria? My name is Letitia, Doctor.
A classical allusion here, drawn from the pagan authors. I shall see you both at Evansong.
Oh, I think, Doctor, I will have that stroll with you. I find I have a headache coming on after all, and walk will do it there.
With pleasure, Miss Prism, with pleasure. We may make it as far as the schools and back.
Oh, that would be delightful. Oh, Cecily, you will read your political economy in my absence.
Horrid political economy. Horrid geography. Horrid German.
A Mr. Earnest Worthing has just driven over from the station. He has brought his luggage with him.
Earnest Worthing before the Albany. Uncle Jack's brother. Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in?
Yes, miss, although he seemed quite disappointed. However, I had mentioned that you and Miss Prism were in the garden. He said he was anxious to speak with you privately for a moment.
Well, tell the young man to come here, and you must talk to the housekeeper about getting a room for him.
Yes, miss.
I've never really met any wicked person before. I feel rather frightened. What if he's just like everyone else? He is.
You are my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
Oh no, he must be under some strange misconception. I am not little. In fact, I'm more than unusually tall for my age. But yes, I am your cousin Cecily, and from your card I can see that you are my cousin Ernest. My wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, well, I'm not really wicked. You mustn't think that I'm wicked, Cecily.
Oh. If you are not, then you have certainly been deceiving us all. I hope that you are not leading a double life, pretending to be really bad, but acting really good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Oh, well, I have been rather reckless.
Oh.
In fact, now that you mention the subject, I've been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think that's something you should be very proud of, but I guess it does sound pretty pleasant.
It's much pleasanter being here with you.
I don't understand how you're here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back until Monday afternoon.
Yes, it is a great disappointment. I'm obliged to go up by the first train Monday morning. I have a business appointment that I am anxious to miss.
Couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
No, the appointment is in London.
Oh, well, I know how important it is not to keep a business engagement if one wants to retain any sense of the beauty of life, but still, I think you should wait until Uncle Jack gets back. I know he wants to speak to you about your emigrating.
About my what?
You're emigrating. He's gone up to buy your outfit.
Oh, I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit. He has no taste in neckties at all.
I don't think you will much require neckties. Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Well, he said at dinner on Wednesday night that you would have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Oh, well, the reports I've received from Australia and the next world have not been particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I'm not that. That is why I want you to reform me. You'll make that your mission, I suppose, if it doesn't trouble you too much.
I'm afraid I've no time this afternoon.
Well, would you mind me reforming myself this afternoon?
It's rather quixotic, but I think you should try.
I will. I feel better already.
You're looking much worse.
That is because I'm hungry.
How thoughtless of me. I should have remembered when one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires wholesome and regular meals. Won't you come in?
Thank you.
This very celibacy will lead weaker vessels astray.
Yes, but are not men equally as attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive, except to his wife.
And often I've been told, not even to her.
Well, that would depend on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can always be depended on. Ripeness can be trusted. Young women, they're green. Oh, I spoke horticulturally. My metaphor drawing from fruits. Oh, but where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us to the schools.
Mr. Worthing.
Mr. Worthing!
This is indeed a surprise. We did not look for you till Monday afternoon.
I've returned from town sooner than expected. Dr. Chasuble, I hope you are well.
Mr. Worthing, I trust this garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother,
More shameful debts and extravagance?
Still leading his life of pleasure.
dead.
Your brother Earnest, dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
Mr. Worthing, I offer you my sincere condolence. I may at least give you the consolation you are always the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Poor Ernest. He had many faults, but it is a sad, sad blow.
So sad. Were you with him in the end?
No, he died abroad. I received a message from the manager of the Grand Hotel, in fact.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Charity, dear Miss Prism, charity. None of us are perfect. I myself am peculiarly susceptible to draughts. Will the interment take place here?
Oh, no, he seemed to have expressed a desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris? I fear that hardly points to any serious state of mind lost. You would, no doubt, wish me to make some slight allusion to this terrible domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of the martyr in the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion, joyful or, as in this case, distressing. I have preached it at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, days of humiliations, festival days.
That reminds me, dear doctor. You mentioned christenings. I suppose you know how to christen all right? I mean, you are continually christening.
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties of this parish. I have often spoken to the poor classes on the matter, but they don't seem to know what thrift is.
Is there any infant in particular in which you are interested? Your brother was, I believe, unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes.
Those who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
But it is not for any infant, dear doctor. No, I'm quite fond of children. I would like to be christened myself, actually, this afternoon.
But
If you've nothing better to do.
surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already.
Well, I have no memory of it.
Yes, but do you have any severe doubts on the
Well,
subject?
I certainly intend to have. But, I mean, you don't think I might be a little too old for it?
Oh, not at all. The sprinkling and indeed the immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion?
You need have no apprehensions, Mr. Worthing. Sprinkling is all that will be necessary. Or I think in this case, advisable. Our weather can be so changeable. At what hour would you like this ceremony performed?
Oh, I might trot round about 5 or so.
Perfectly. I indeed have 2 similar ceremonies at that same hour. A case of twins that has occurred in one of the outlying cottages of your own estate.
No, I don't see much fun in being baptized alongside other babies. Would 5:30 do?
Admirably. And now, dear Mr. Worthing, I will intrude no longer upon this house of sorrow. I only beg that you are not too bowed down by grief. What seem to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to me a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Uncle Jack! How glad I am to see you back. Oh, but what horrid clothes you have got on. Do go and change them.
Please.
My child!
Uncle Jack? What's the matter? You act as if you'd had a toothache. Oh, but don't worry. I've got such a surprise for you. You will never guess who's in the dining room. Your brother.
What?
Your brother Ernest. He arrived about 30 minutes ago.
What nonsense! I don't have a brother.
Uncle Jack. No matter how he may have behaved to you in the past, he is still your brother. I'm not so heartless as to disown him. Listen, I will go get Ernest, and you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are joyful tidings!
After we had all been resigned to his loss, his sudden return seems particularly distressing.
My own brother in the dining room. I don't know what it means. That seems perfectly absurd. Good heavens.
Brother John! I've just come down from town to tell you that I'm very sorry for all the trouble I've given you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you shake his hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think his coming down here disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Do be nice. No matter what had happened in the past, he's still your brother. And I believe that everyone has something good. Ernest has just been telling me all about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury.
Oh, he's been talking to you about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he's told me all about his friend's poor state of health.
I'll not have him talk to you about Bunbury or anything else. It's enough to drive one perfectly frantic.
I'll admit the faults were all on my side, but I feel Brother John's coldness to me is peculiarly painful.
Uncle Jack, if you don't shake Ernest's hand, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me?
Never, never, never!
Then it is the last time I shall do it.
is it not? To see so perfect a reconciliation. I think we shall leave the two brothers alone together.
Cecily, you will come with us.
Yes, I feel my little task of reconciliation is over.
You have done the most beautiful action today, dear child.
We must not be premature in our judgments.
I feel very happy.
Algy, you young scoundrel! You've got to go! I don't allow any bun burying here!
I think that Mr. Earnest left his things in the room next to yours, sir. I suppose that is all right.
His what?
His luggage, sir. I've unpacked it and placed it in the room next to your own.
His luggage.
Yes, 3 portmanteaus, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a large luncheon basket.
I'm afraid I can't stay for more than a week this time.
Merriman, order the dog cart. Mr. Earnest has suddenly been called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I haven't been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
I haven't heard anyone call me back.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the slightest degree.
Well, I've no doubt about that.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
No, I will not have you talk about Miss Cardew in that way. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Why on earth don't you go up and change? It is perfectly absurd to be deep in mourning for a man who is staying a whole week with you in your own house as a guest.
You are not staying a whole week with me as a guest or as anything else. You've got to go.
Well, I can't leave you so long as you are in mourning. It would be most unkind. If I were in mourning, you would stay with me, I suppose. I should think it very unkind if you didn't.
Well, will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes, but if you're not too long. I've never seen anybody take so long to dress with such little results.
Well, at any rate, it's better than being always as overdressed as you are.
If occasionally I'm attacked, overdressed, I make up for it by always being immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous. Your conduct an outrage, and your presence in my garden utterly absurd. However, you have got to go, and I do hope you have a pleasant journey back to town. This bun burying, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
I think it has been a great success. I'm in love with Cecily. That is everything. Ah, there she is.
Oh, I merely came out to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He's gone to order the dog cart for me.
Oh, is he going to take you for a nice drive?
No, he's going to send me away.
And we've got to part?
I'm afraid so. It is a very painful part.
It is always painful to part from someone whom one has known for such a brief space of time.
Thank you.
The dog cart is at the door, sir.
It can wait, Merriman, for 5 minutes.
Yes, miss.
I hope, Cecily, I shall not offend you. If I state quite frankly and openly that you seem to me to be in every way the very vision of perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. In fact, if you allow me, I would love to copy your remarks down into my diary.
You could write down absolute perfection. Oh, do you really keep a diary? I'd give anything to read.
How could it possibly? It is simply a record of a very young girl's thoughts and opinions, and subsequently meant for publication. But pray do continue. I delight in taking down from dictation. Oh, you shouldn't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one should always speak quite fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell a cough.
Cecily, ever since I first looked upon your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I've dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I don't think you should say that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, wildly? Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cecily.
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Tell it to come round next week at the same hour.
Yes, sir.
Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed to know that you were staying on till next week at the same hour.
I don't care about Jack. I don't care about anybody in the whole world but you. I love you, Cecily. You will marry me, won't you?
You silly boy, of course. Why, we've been engaged for the past 3 months.
For the last 3 months.
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, ever since Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a wild and bad younger brother, you of course formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. A man who is most talked about is most attractive. It was foolish of me, Ernest, but I fell in love with you.
Oh, darling. But when was this engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last, worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I decided to end the matter one way or another, and through a very hard and painful journey with myself, I accepted you under the dear old tree there. The next day I went out and I bought this ring in your name.
Did I give you this? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Yes, you've wonderfully good taste, Ernest. In fact, that's the excuse I've always given you for leading such a bad life. Oh, and this is the box in which I keep all of your dear letters.
My letters? But, my dear Cecily, I haven't written you any letters.
You need hardly remind me of that, Ernest. In fact, I remember only too well that I was forced to write your letters for you.
Do let me read them, Cecily.
I couldn't possibly. They would make you far too conceited. The 3 that you had written me after I had broken off our engagement are so beautiful and so badly spelt that I can hardly read them without crying a little.
But was our engagement ever broken off?
Of course it was. You can see the entry if you like. Today I broke off my engagement with Ernest. I feel it is best to do so. The weather continues calm.
Why on earth had you broken it off? What had I done, Cecily? I'd done nothing at all. I'm very much hurt indeed to say you broke off our engagement, particularly when the weather was so charming.
It hardly would have been a real engagement if it hadn't been broken off at least once, but don't worry. I forgave you before the week was out.
What a perfect angel you are, Cecily.
You dear romantic girl.
You won't break off our engagement again, Cecily?
I don't think I could now that I've actually met you. And of course, there's the question of your name.
Yes! Of course!
You mustn't laugh at me, darling, but it has always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone by the name of Earnest. Something in that name inspires absolute confidence. I could be any poor married woman whose husband is not called Earnest.
But my little one, why on earth? What do you mean to say that you couldn't love me if I had some other name?
But what other name?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
But I don't like the name Algernon.
My own sweet, loving, little darling. I don't see why you should object to the name of Algernon. It is not at all a bad name. But seriously, Cecily, if my name was Algie, couldn't you love me?
I might respect you. I might admire your character, but I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to give you my whole undivided attention.
Cecily, you're acting. That's not ceremonials and the rites of the church.
Yes, Dr. Chasuble is a most learned man. In fact, he's never written a book. So you can imagine how much he knows.
I see him on a most important Christmas. I mean, on most important business.
Oh.
I shan't be ready for more than half an hour.
Oh. Seeing as we've been engaged since the 14th of February, and this is only the first time we've really met, I feel like 30 minutes is a rather long time for you to be gone. Couldn't you make it 20?
I'll be back in no time.
What an impetuous boy he is. I like his hair so much. I must copy his engagement down into my diary.
A Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing on very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Did you tell her that Mr. Worthing was in the library?
Mr. Worthing made his way in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Oh, well, pray do tell the lady to come here, and you can make tea as usual.
Yes, miss.
He had a ward. How much secret of him? He grows more interesting hourly. However, I'm not certain that this news inspires me with feelings of unmixed delight.
Cecily, I am very fond of you. I've liked you ever since I met you.
However, now that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I cannot help expressing a wish that you were, well, perhaps just a little bit older than you seem to be, and not quite so very alluring in appearance.
In fact, if I may speak candidly, pray do. I think that whenever one has something unpleasant to say, they should always speak quite candidly.
Well, then to speak with perfect candor, Cecily, I wish you were fully 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest has a very strong, upright nature. He's the very soul of truth and honor. Disloyal to it is impossible to him is deception. But even men of the noblest possible moral character can find themselves susceptible to the physical charms of others.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn. Did you say Ernest?
Yes.
Oh, but Mr. Ernest Worthing is not my ward. It is his brother, his elder brother.
Ernest never mentioned anything to me about having a brother.
I'm afraid they've been on poor terms for a while now.
Oh, that accounts for it. Now that I think of it, I've never heard any man mention his brother. The subject seems almost distasteful to most men. Cecily, you have lifted a load from my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would have been terrible if any cloud had come across a friendship such as ours, would it not? Of course, you are quite sure that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian.
Quite sure. In fact, I am going to be his.
I beg your pardon?
My sweet Gwendolyn, there's no point in making it a secret to you. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
Oh. I'm afraid there must be some slight error, Miss Cardew. You see, Mr. Worthing is engaged to me.
You must be under some misconception. Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
Oh. It is certainly very curious, for he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you would care to verify the incident, pray do so. I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to put on the train. I'm so sorry if this is any disappointment to you, Miss Cardew, but I'm afraid that I have the prior claim.
Gwendolyn, I hope it did not cause you any mental or physical anguish, but I feel bound to tell you as your friend that since Mr. Ernest Worthing has proposed to you, he has clearly changed his mind. entanglement my dear boy may have gotten himself into, I will never reproach him with it once we are married.
Do you refer to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion such as this, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrap Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? This is no time for the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I am very glad to say that I have never seen a spade. It is obvious that our social spheres have been widely different.
Shall I lay tea here as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual.
Are there any interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Oh, yes. From one of the nearby hills, one can see 5 counties.
5 counties? I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
Oh. I suppose that's why you live in town.
Quite a well-kept garden this is, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I wasn't aware there were any flowers in the country.
Oh, yes. Flowers, or as common here as people in London. Oh, tea.
Thank you. Detestable girl. But I require tea.
Sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar is not fashionable anymore.
Bread or cake with butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is rarely seen in the best houses nowadays.
Hi, Mr. Miss Fairfax.
You have filled my tea with sugar, and though I very specifically requested bread and butter, you have given me cake. I know the gentleness of my disposition and the sweetness of my character. But I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
There are no lengths to which I would not travel to save my dear, trusting, innocent boy from the machinations of any other woman.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I felt that you were false and deceitful. My first impressions of these matters are never wrong. They're always invariably right.
Sweet Gwendolyn, I feel as though I am trespassing on your valuable time. I am so certain that you have many other calls of similar nature to make around the neighborhood.
Ernest,
Gwendolyn!
Ernest, a moment. May I ask if you are engaged to be married to this young lady?
The sweet little Cecily? Of course not! What could have put such an idea in your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
I knew there must have been some kind of miscommunication. The man whose arm is present round your waist is not Mr. Earnest Worthing. It is Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon?
That is Uncle Jack.
Jack!
No! This is Ernest.
My own love!
A moment. I have a question to ask you. Are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
What young lady?
Good heavens, Gwendolyn!
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolyn! I mean Gwendolyn.
garden.
Of course not! What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may. I thought there must be some slight error on this card. You see, the man who is currently embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon?
Are you called Algernon?
Cannot deny it.
Oh. And are you really called John?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked. Oh, but my name is John. It has been John for years.
A gross deception has been practiced upon us both.
My poor wounded Cecily. My sweet blonde Gwendolyn. You'll always call me sister, will you not?
There is just one question I would like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea. Mr. Worthing, there is just one question I would like to be able to put forward to you. Where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest, so it is of some slight importance to us to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolyn, Cecily, it is a very painful thing for me to be forced to speak the truth.
Oh.
It's the first time in my life I've ever been reduced to such a position. But the truth is, I have no brother Ernest. I have no brother at all. I've never had a brother, and I certainly don't have any intention on ever having a brother.
No brother at all?
None.
I'm afraid it is quite clear that neither of us are engaged to marry anyone, Cecily.
This is not a very good situation for a young girl to find herself in.
Let us go into the house. You can hardly dare to follow us in there.
No, men are so cowardly, aren't they?
Oh, this ghastly state of things is what you call bun-burying, is it?
Yes.
I don't allow any bun-burying here.
That is absurd. One has a right to bun-bury wherever one chooses. Every serious bun-buryer knows that.
Serious bun-buriers? Good heavens.
But one must be serious about some. I happen to be serious about bun-burying.
Oh, well, the only small satisfaction I have in this whole state of affairs is that your friend, Mr. Bunbury, is quite exploded. You won't be able to run off to the country as often as you once did. Now, will you, Algie? And a very good thing, too.
Your brother is a little off-color, isn't he, dear Jack? You won't be able to disappear to London quite so frequently as your wicked custom was, and not at all of that.
As for your conduct towards Miss Carter, I find your taking in a sweet, simple, innocent young girl like that to be perfectly disgraceful. To say nothing of the fact that she is my ward.
I can see no possible defense for your deceiving a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady such as Miss Fairfax, to say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
I wanted to be engaged to Gwendolyn. I love her, that is all.
Well, I simply wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
Well, there's no chance of that happening now.
I can see very little likelihood of you and Gwendolyn being united.
Well, that's no business of yours.
If it was my business, I wouldn't talk about it.
How you can sit calmly eating muffins when we're in this horrible state, I can't make out. You seem to me to be perfectly harmless.
Well, I can't eat muffins in an agitated manner. The butter would probably get on my cuffs.
I say it's heartless you're eating muffins at all under the circumstances.
When I am in trouble, eating muffins is the only thing that consoles me. At the present moment, I happen to be eating muffins because I am in trouble.
Well, you needn't eat them in that greedy way.
I wish you would have some tea cake instead. I don't like tea cake.
Good heavens, Algie. I suppose a man may eat his own muffins in his own garden.
said it was perfectly heartless to be eating muffins.
I said it was perfectly heartless of you to be eating muffins. That's a very different thing.
Yes, but the muffins are the same.
Algy, I wish you would go. Why don't you go?
I can't go. I haven't... but you haven't given me my dinner. I never leave without my dinner. Besides, I'm going to be... I made arrangements with Dr. Charleston to be christened at 5:45. Under the name of Earnest.
My dear fellow, the sooner you give up on that nonsense, the better. I've made arrangements to be christened myself at 5:30, and I will naturally take the name of Ernest. Gwendolyn would want it. We can't both be christened Ernest, that is absurd. Besides, I have a perfect right to be christened. I have no recollection of ever being christened at all. You have been christened.
Yes, but I haven't been christened for a number of years.
Yes, but you have been christened. That is the important.
Quite so. So I know my constitution can stand it. It might make you very ill. You can't have forgotten that someone very closely connected to you was very nearly carried off in Paris by a severe chill.
Algy, that is nonsense.
Jack, you are at the muffins again. I wish you wouldn't. There's only one left.
But I hate teething.
Then why on earth would you allow it to be served up for your guests?
Algy, I want you to go. Why don't you go?
Well, I haven't finished my tea yet. And there's still one muffin left.
The fact that they do not fall as into the house as anyone else would have seems to show that they have some semblance of shame, and they're eating muffins. It looks like some kind of repentance. You didn't seem to notice us at all. Couldn't you cough? But I hadn't thought to cough. They're looking at us. What effrontery! How very foreign of them. They're approaching. Let us preserve a dignified silence. This dignified silence seems to produce an unpleasant effect, a most distasteful one. But we shall not be the first to speak. Certainly not. Mr. Worthing, I have something very particular to ask you. Much depends on your reply. Gwendolyn, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
Well, in order that I may have an opportunity of meeting you.
That certainly seems a satisfactory reply. Yes, dear, if you can believe him. I don't, but that doesn't take away from the beauty of his words. In matters of grave importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, what possible explanation can you give me for pretending to have a brother? Was it so that you might have every possible opportunity to come to town and see me?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest possible doubts upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. Their answers do seem satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's.
I'm quite content with Mr. Moncrief's answer. His voice alone inspires absolute credulity.
So you think we should forgive them?
Yes.
I mean, no. True. There are principles at stake which one cannot surrender. Which one of us should tell them? The task is not a pleasant one.
Why don't we tell them at the same time?
A great idea. I almost always speak at the same time as other people. Will you take the time?
Really, certainly.
Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian names? Is that all? But we are going to be christened this afternoon.
For me, you are prepared to do this terrible thing?
I am.
For me, you are ready to face this fearful ordeal?
I am.
How absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes. In matters of self-sacrifice, men are completely beyond us.
We are!
Men often have moments of physical courage we women know absolutely nothing about. Darling!
Darling!
Lady Brock.
Good heavens!
Gwendolyn, what is this about?
Merely that I am engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Come over here. Sit down. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young and physical weakness in the old. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, I followed her at once on a luggage train. But you will, of course, understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately. On this point, as on all my points, I am firm.
I am engaged to be married to Gwendolyn, Lady Bracknell.
You're nothing of the kind, sir. Now ask Algernon. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
may I ask, is this the house that your invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, resides?
Oh, no. Mr. Bunbury doesn't live here. Mr. Bunbury is somewhere else at present. In fact, Mr. Bunbury is dead.
Dead? Well, he died. Must have been rather sudden.
Yes, I killed Mr. Bunbury this afternoon. I mean, Mr. Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die from?
Oh, Mr. Bunbury? Well, he was quite exploded.
Exploded. Was it from some revolutionary outrage?
My dear Aunt Augusta, I mean, he was found out. The doctors found out that he could not live. That is what I mean. So he died.
Mr. Bunbury certainly had a lot of confidence in his physician's opinion. Now that we're finally rid of this Mr. Bunbury, Mr. Worthing, may I ask, who is that young person that my nephew Algernon is holding her hand in a particularly unnecessary manner?
That young person is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I'm engaged to be married to Miss Cecily.
I beg your pardon.
Mr. Moncrief and I are engaged to be married.
I think a preliminary inquiry on my part is not out of the question. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew in any way connected to the railway stations in London? I simply need information because, you see, until yesterday, I had no idea that families or persons had as their origin a terminus.
Miss Cecily Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, Gervais Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Sporting, Berkshire.
That does not sound unsatisfactory. The three addresses do inspire confidence, but what proof have I of their authenticity?
Well, I've carefully preserved the court records of the era, Lady Bracknell. They are open to your inspection.
I've known strange airs in that publication.
Haha. But Miss Cardew's solicitors are Messrs. Markby, and Markby.
Oh, Markby. A firm of the highest position in their profession. So far, I'm satisfied.
Oh, well, how wonderfully kind of you, Lady Bracknell. You'll be pleased to know that I also have records of her birth, baptism, registration, confirmation, vaccination, whooping cough, and the measles, both the German and English variety.
Ah, a life filled with incident, I see. But perhaps too much excitement for a young person. Gwendolyn, the time has come for us to depart. We don't have a moment too soon. Oh, Mr. Worthing, as a matter of form, may I ask, does Miss Cardew have any small fortune?
Oh, about £130,000 in the funds. That is all. I hope you have a pleasant trip back to town, Lady Bracknell. It was so lovely seeing you.
No, but Mr. Worthing. Miss Cardew appears to be quite a lovely young lady, now that I look at her. Come here. Turn around, dear child. Oh, it is the side view I desire. Yes, just as I expected. There are some serious social possibilities in your profile. Algernon?
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
Algernon?
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
Algernon. There are some serious social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the prettiest, most wonderful, prettiest, smartest, most prettiest girl I've ever seen in my life, and I don't care twopence about social possibilities.
Oh, Algernon, do not speak that way of society. Only those who can't get into it do that. My dear, you must surely know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to rely on. And I do not approve of mercenary marriages. Why, when I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of my own, and I never dreamed for a moment to let that stand in my way. So, I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
You may kiss me, sister.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
And you may call me Aunt Augusta from this time forward.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
But speaking frankly, I do not believe in long engagements. Long engagements. Long engagements just give people time to find out about one another's character before marriage. That is never advisable.
Pray pardon me for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but I feel I must inform you that, according to her late grandfather's will, Miss Cardew cannot marry without my consent, and that consent I refuse to give.
Based on what grounds, may I ask? My nephew is quite eligible, may I say ostentatiously eligible young man. He has nothing, but he looks everything. What more could one desire?
It pains me to speak frankly, Lady Bracknell, but I don't approve at all of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew, Algernon? Impossible. He's an Oxonian.
Well, I'm afraid there can be no doubt in the matter, Lady Bracknell. This afternoon, while I was away in London on an important matter of romance, he secured admission to my home under the false pretense of being my brother. Continuing his disgraceful deception, he isolated the affections of my only born. He then proceeded to stay for tea, where he devoured every single muffin. And what made his conduct all the more heartless was I told him yesterday I never had a brother. I don't have a brother, and I have no intention of ever having a brother at all.
Mr. Worthy, after giving it careful consideration, I have decided to entirely overlook my nephew's conduct to you.
Well, that's very gracious of you, Lady Bracknell. Unfortunately, my opinion remains unchanged. I decline to give my consent.
Come here. How old are you?
I'm really only 18, but I always admit to 20 at evening parties.
Oh, it is perfectly right to be somewhat altered. No woman should ever be unaccurate about her age. But you will soon be of age and free from all your restraints of tutelage. And so, I don't think that your guardian's consent is of any matter of importance.
Oh, I'm so sorry to interrupt you again, Lady Bracknell, but I must inform you that, in accordance to her late grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not come of age until she is 35.
No grave concern to me. 35 is a very lovely age. Why, the women in London society of the highest birth, of their own free will, have remained 35 for years.
Algie, could you wait for me till I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Yes, I knew that instinctively, but I don't think I could wait all that time. I hate waiting even 5 minutes for anybody. It makes me rather cross. I know that I'm not punctual myself, but punctuality in others is something I very much look for. Waiting for marriage is far out of the question.
Then what is to be done?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrief.
Oh, my dear Mr. Worthing, you have clearly heard her say that she cannot wait until she is 35. I beg you, please reconsider your decision.
Well, Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your hands. The moment you consent to my marriage with Gwendolen, I will certainly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
You must be quite aware that is never going to happen.
Well, then I suppose a passionate celibacy is all that should await any of us.
Ew!
That is not the destiny I have for Gwendolen. Algernon, of course, can make his own choice. Come here.
Everything is quite ready for the christenings.
Christenings, sir? Are you not a bit premature?
Both of these young gentlemen have expressed a desire for immediate baptism.
At their age? The idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I will not allow you to be baptized. I will not have you do such excesses. Lord Bracknell would be very disappointed if he learned that that was the way in which you wasted your time and money.
Am I to understand that there will be no christenings taking place at all this afternoon?
I am afraid, Dr. Chasuble, that given the current circumstances, they wouldn't really be of much practical use to any of us.
I am grieved to hear such sentiments coming from you, Mr. Worthing. But, as your present mood seems to be one peculiarly secular, I shall retire to the church at once. I have, after all, just been informed by a pew opener that for the past hour and 1/2, Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Prism! Did I hear you say Miss Prism?
Yes, I was on my way to join her.
Pardon me. Let me have you for a moment. Is Miss Prism? Is she a female of repellent appearance? Connected in any way with education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies, the very picture of respectability.
Yes, obviously, we're talking about the same person. May I ask what position she held in your house?
I am a celibate.
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell has, for the past 3 years, been Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
Despite what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Send for her immediately.
Ah, she approaches. She's nigh.
I was told you expected me in the vestry, dear Canon. I've been waiting for you there for 1 hour and 3/4.
Come here, Prism.
Prism. Where is that baby? 28 years ago, you were in charge of a perambulator from Lord Bracknell's house. Of male sex. You never returned. The perambulator was found at midnight a few weeks later, and in it was a...
Which station?
Victoria. The bright light.
I must retire to my room for a moment. Gwendolyn, you'll wait here for me?
If you're not too long, I'll wait for you my entire life.
What do you think this all means, Lady Bracknell?
I dare not even suspect, Dr. Chasuble. Incidents such as these in families of high positions are not supposed to occur. It's hardly the thing.
Uncle Jack seems strangely agitated.
Your guardian suffers from unusually emotional nature.
That noise is so unpleasant. It sounds like he's arguing with someone, and I dislike arguments of any kind. They are vulgar and often convincing.
It appears to have stopped now.
I wish he would reach a conclusion.
The suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
Miss Prism, is this the handbag? Examine it closely. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
It seems to be mine. Yes, here on the lock are my initials.
Oh,
I forgot I had them placed there in an extravagant mood. This is undoubtedly my bag. I am delighted to have it so unexpectedly restored to me. It's been a great inconvenience without it all these years.
Miss Prism, more is restored to you than that handbag. I was the baby you placed inside it.
You?
Yes, Mother.
Mr. Worthing, I am unmarried.
Unmarried. Oh, this is a serious blow. But who can cast stones against one who has suffered? Cannot repentance wipe out an act of folly? Why should we have one law for men and another for women? Mother, I forgive you.
Mr. Worthing, there is some error. There is the lady who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, I really hate to seem inquisitive, but would you mind telling me who I am?
I'm afraid that the news I'm about to tell you will not altogether suit you. the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief. Consequently, you're Algernon's elder brother.
Algy's elder brother? I knew I had a brother. Well, I always said I had a brother, didn't I, Gwendolyn? Cecily, how could you ever have doubted that I had a brother? Dr. Chasuble, my unfortunate brother. Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Gwendolyn, my unfortunate brother. Algy, you young scoundrel, you'll have to treat me with more respect from now on. You never behaved much like a brother to me in all your life.
Until today, old boy, though I admit, I'm a bit out of practice.
My own! What own I? What is your Christian name now that you have become someone else?
Yes, I'd quite forgotten that point. Your decision on the matter of my name is irrevocable.
I never change, except in my affections.
What a noble nature you have, Gwendolyn.
Well, then I suppose the point's better be cleared up at once. Aunt Augusta, at the time when Miss Prism left me in the handbag, had I been christened already?
Every luxury that money could buy, including christening, was afforded to you by your fond and doting parents.
Then I have been christened. All right. What is my Christian name? Give me the worst.
I can't recall what the general's Christian name was, but I'm sure that he had one.
The General. Algy, you're our father. You don't remember what our father's name was, do you?
Oh, my dear fellow, I'm afraid we were never on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
His name, Aunt Augusta, would appear on the military directory of the time.
Well, he was a general that was peaceable, except in his domestic. But I have no doubt that he would show up in any military directory.
Well, the military directories of the last 40 years are here. These magnificent volumes should have been the subject of my constant study. Generals, Moxby, Malcolm, Higsby, what ghastly names they have. Malcolm, Moncrief. 1839, Lieutenant Captain. General, 1869. Christian name? Earnest John. I always told you my name was Ernest Gwendolyn. I mean, it is Ernest. It is naturally Ernest.
Yes, now that I remember, the general was called Earnest. I knew there was a particular reason why I hated them.
Ernest, my own Ernest. I felt from the start that you could have no other name.
Gwendolyn, it is a terrible thing for a man to discover that all his life he's been speaking nothing but the truth. Can you ever forgive me?
I can, for I'm certain you're about to change.
Gwendolyn.
Letitia!
At last!
Oh, Cecily! At last!
Gwendolyn. At last.
My nephew, you appear to be showing signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I've just discovered for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.